Well, infantry in the Civil War. When you think about infantry in the Civil War, I'll bet something does not come to mind. Harper's Ferry. Look at this. Look at this place. Now, most of you have been here. Perhaps all of you have been here. You know Harper's Ferry. And you know infantry. Even though you're part of this experience this weekend, you still know something about Civil War infantry. And you know how Civil War infantry operates. This is not an operational theater for Civil War infantry. I mean, look at this terrain. Infantry, Civil War infantry can't operate in this terrain. Modern United States Army infantry, those guys that are fighting on the ground, would have difficulty with this type of terrain. It doesn't just gently undulate. It's not moderate. This is extremely steep, difficult, rugged terrain. It's terrible for infantry operations. Absolutely horrible. Nobody in their right mind would want to conduct infantry operations here. Now, of course, Harper's Ferry is a place that we need to think of as a place that is a triangle. And there's three edges to the triangle, of course, and those edges represent mountains. You can see two of those mountains here. One of them, right behind me, is the tallest mountain that overlooks Harper's Ferry. That's Maryland Heights, appropriately named. It's in Maryland. You're looking into the state of Maryland. We right now are in West Virginia. And you can see Virginia from here also. As you look down through the water gap and you see that mountain in the distance on the horizon, that entire mountain that you see is in Virginia. But that mountain has nothing to do with our story today. Nothing. Let me go back to the triangle. The triangle consists of three mountains. One of them we just mentioned, Maryland Heights. A second edge of the triangle is this direction, Loudoun Heights. Some of you probably heard of Loudoun County, Virginia. Well, that's not Loudoun County. That's still West Virginia. That's the north side of that mountain. Loudoun County would be on the other side of the Loudoun Heights. But that is the second of the edge on the triangle, and it is lower in elevation than Maryland Heights. Now, with the camera, it's difficult to see just how much elevation difference there is. And even with the naked eye, when you stand here at Harper's Ferry and you look at Maryland Heights and Loudoun Heights, from this position that we're on in West Virginia, the mountains look just about the same elevation. They're not. That is an optical illusion. They're not. Maryland Heights, in fact, is almost 500 feet higher than Loudoun Heights. Then there's the third edge of the triangle that we're going to talk about in our story today, and that's called Bolivar Heights. And Bolivar Heights would be behind us. It's about a mile and a half from where we're standing right now. And so when we talk about Harper's Ferry and infantry, what we're really talking about is mountains and infantry seizing crest mountaintops. That's what this story is all about. You know, you can go almost to any Civil War battlefield and you're not going to see terrain that looks like this. Now, one that might come to mind if you're thinking about Western theater might be Chattanooga and the Battle of Chattanooga, and something like Missionary Ridge or something like Lookout Mountain, infantry fights. Yeah, well, you know how difficult that was for the Union Army to try to scale those mountains. Well, here we've got that too. But in this case, it's not going to be the Union Army trying to scale the mountains. It's going to be the Confederate Army that's going to try to seize the mountains here. And they're the Confederates of Thomas Jonathan Jackson, Stonewall Jackson. And so just keep that triangle in mind as we speak here throughout our program. That's really essential. Just visualize that triangle. Three mountains, three different elevations that are really, really critical to the story that we're about to tell. Now, to understand the infantry here at Harper's Ferry, in this campaign, you need to understand Special Orders 191. Now remember, it is Special Orders, plural, always plural. If you ever see it written as Special Order 191, that's incorrect. I don't know how many times I've helped writers editing their book, and I have to keep putting that S in there. It's Special Orders 191. It's a continuum of orders that Lee issues as Commander of the Army of Northern Virginia since he took command and named the Army in 1862. So this is the 191st in that long listing of orders. Special Orders 191. You know it. It's probably one of the few, if not the only one, that you can name by name as an order issued by Robert E. Lee, and you can define it. You can tell what it's all about. Well, here at Harper's Ferry, it's really, I mean, this is it. This is what it's all about. Basically, what General Lee is doing is he's dividing the Army into 4 sections, 4 parts. 3 of those 4 parts are coming here. Why 3? Well, remember the triangle. And so what Lee intends to do is this. The Union Army is here. General Lee's going this direction. He's going to Pennsylvania. That is the objective. There's no single place in Maryland that is the principal goal of this campaign. This is an invasion. So we're going into real Yankee country, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is about 40 miles this direction, 2 days march, 2 days hard march from Harper's Ferry. We would be across the Mason-Dixon line. But the problem for General Lee is that as he's going north, the Yankees don't cooperate. In other words, we have here in the Harper's Ferry area about 14,000 Union soldiers that comprise what's known as the Railroad Brigade. Called the Railroad Brigade because of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, which of course passes right here through the Harper's Ferry Gap. Continues that way to Baltimore, that way all the way to the Ohio River. And so here we have the Railroad Brigade, which is a misnomer. It actually is basically a corps, 14,000 men, infantry, artillery, cavalry, all under the command of Colonel Dixon Stansbury Miles, a Marylander. When Lee went north and was heading towards Pennsylvania, stops at Frederick, and Frederick, incidentally, is right here through the Water Gap, 20 miles this direction, 20 miles due east of us is Frederick. If we were here early in the morning and watching the sunrise is right there, right in the gap. It's coming up. And so Lee is 20 miles from here, a good day's march. Lee, when he goes north, expects the Yankees to abandon this place, to just leave it. That makes common sense, good military sense, because Lee's north of them. The Federals now are behind him, and they're completely cut off from any assistance and communication from any other Yankee anywhere. Totally isolated here, totally cut off. So Lee expects them to go to where their friends are, north, to abandon this place and go north. What Lee doesn't know is that the Union High Command in Washington has ordered the Federal force here to stand pat, not move, don't leave. Hold Harper's Ferry, the word is, to the last extremity. So they're here, they're not going anywhere. Well, this is a problem for General Lee because he's now got a Union Corps to his rear, behind him. So he has to get rid of these people, and that's what brings about Special Orders 191. Special Orders 191 is very simple in terms of its mission. Get rid of the Yankees in Lee's rear at Harper's Ferry. That is its purpose. But it's not simple in its execution. In fact, I argue, and I'll be happy to argue with you, that this is the most complex order Lee issues during the war as Commander of the Army of Northern Virginia. The most difficult order to execute because of infantry. Because of infantry. You know, it takes a long time for infantry to move during the Civil War. You're moving masses of men, tens of thousands of men on not very good roads. And even if you're trying to move thousands of men on flat ground in maneuver, it takes a long time. Ever seen a reenactment? They're good for this. You can watch those men execute the maneuvers, and nothing happens fast. Nothing. Nothing. And so infantry is cumbersome in terms of maneuver. It's bulky. It's clumsy. And that's what makes this so interesting. Special Orders 191 and Harper's Ferry and infantry. None of that comes together. If you were mixing a cocktail, something to drink that is going to be pleasant for you to enjoy, you would not mix infantry, Harper's Ferry, and Special Orders 191. That would be a pretty sour cocktail. And the problem is this topography, this ground. As I opened, this is not ideal. This is horrible for infantry. This is not what infantry is designed to do, take ground like this. And so that's what Special Orders 191 basically says. General Lee is going to take 3 parts of his army and send them here. Most of that is infantry. A lot of people don't realize that Special Orders 191 sends 2/3 of the Confederate infantry here to Harper's Ferry. 2/3 of the Confederate infantry is coming here. This isn't a sideshow for Lee. This is the show. He's got to get rid of these people. So the plan is this. Place Confederate infantry on top of each mountain. Each mountain. Maryland Heights on one edge of the triangle. Loudon Heights. Bolivar Heights. So that triangle is topped by Confederate infantry and the Yankees are caught in the middle. That's what Special Orders 191 is. But look at this. Look at this. Look how difficult this is. We've got infantrymen, and this is a lot, about 30,000 total. 30,000 Confederates coming here. Coming from 3 different directions of the compass, okay? They're coming from 3 different directions. And they've all got to come here and get here at the same time for every edge of that triangle to close. Because what happens if they don't arrive at the same time? If all 3 columns don't get here simultaneously, look what happens. Let's say 2 of the 3 columns arrive. This edge, this edge. Well, look at that hole. The Yankees go right out the hole. You're not going to trap anybody with a hole. This column doesn't arrive on time. Out they go. This column down here doesn't arrive on time. Look at, there's a hole. All 3 columns must arrive simultaneously. That, with no modern communication. There's no satellites up there tracking your maneuvers. You don't have any smartphones. Hey, how you doing? Where are you? What's your location? What's your time expected to arrive? You can't do that. They don't have radios. The only form of communication they have is really a courier. And that's not efficient. And so you think about this, Special Orders 191, Lee is asking 3 disparate columns coming from 3 different directions to seize these 3 mountaintops all at the same time. Think about that, the complexity of that. I've done a lot of tours for the military over the years. They call them staff rides. I've had big brass, including generals and colonels and all the way down to lieutenants and captains and majors. And I'll describe this maneuver of Special Orders 191. And you know what the reaction is as I'm looking at these people in front of me and I'm describing this coordinated advance of these 3 columns coming from 3 directions, all to simultaneously converge in this kind of topography. You want to know what the reaction is I get from all those trained military officers? No way. That's for today's military. And we're going to do it in 1862. So what I'm suggesting to you is the chances of this succeeding are not good. General Lee's basically issuing an order, 191, that is almost impossible to execute. Really. Look at all the barriers to making this happen. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. But it's not crazy to one man. You might guess who that is. Stonewall Jackson. Oh yeah, I can do this. No problem. We can do this. Sure we can do this. It's the mighty stone wall. Well, let's go see what happens.